One is this so-called kinked demand curve model. Firms might face a demand curve which is kinked, means it looks something like this. It has a kink here. So, this is a kink at this quantity Qk and price Pk. So, what it means is, as we just said, that firms perceive that if they were to raise prices, then none of their competitors would follow, and consequently they would lose a lot of quantity demanded would fall by a lot. The demand curve is relatively flatter out here. So, consequently elasticity is high. The elasticity of demand, if you increase prices, the elasticity of demand is fairly high, people do not follow you. On the other hand, if you lower prices, then everybody lowers prices, and consequently you do not really gain much market share as a result. So, the elasticity of demand is fairly low if you try to reduce prices. Now, so let us now think about how a firm, such a firm would behave. And again, this is one of the diagrams which I find very difficult to draw, because there are now two demand curves. There will be two marginal revenue curves, and so there will be one marginal revenue curve as you come along, and then from here you sort of have switched demand curves. So, you will have to shift to a different marginal revenue curve, and you can, I am sure your book will have a diagram, or later on we can talk about it, but roughly the things will look like this. Your marginal revenue will come up to here, and then there will be a gap, and then your marginal revenue will continue. The marginal revenue curve, this is your marginal revenue curve. So, it first you will go according to this demand curve, and then at this point you have to switch to a different marginal revenue curve, which you will do, but there will be a gap. When you jump from one to the other, you literally have to jump. So, the derivative will not be, since the curve is, this line is not continuous. So, because there is a kink, the derivative will not be continuous. So, there will be a jump. So, what will happen? Why make the demand curve behave in a particular way, make the marginal revenue behave worse? What am I supposed to get out of this? What is the purpose of doing this? No, there is something very peculiar which will happen. So, suppose there are two firms. Let us suppose this is MC1, this is MC2. How much will these firms produce, and what prices will they charge? Marginal revenue is here. So, it falls in this gap. So, both firms will say, okay, so we are here, then I should produce Qk and charge a price Pk. And even though the two firms have different marginal cost curves, they will both charge the same price and sell the same quantity. So, let me just say this. So, people observe that in some oligopoly industries, prices tend to be, as he said, sticky, and so was quantity. Even though there were a large number of firms which were producing, which had different cost conditions, they seem to produce the same quantity and charge the same price. Also, they figured that even though over time, as cost conditions change, the firms seem to stick to their decisions about quantity and price. So, how could it happen? And this is sort of one guy's attempt to show you, well, this is how it could happen.